Have you ever had that split-second thought, like, wait, where's my firearm pointing right now? It's a feeling anyone handling a firearm should never, ever have, and that is why today we are diving deep into the absolute bedrock of firearm safety Rule 2.
Ooh, I like that bedrock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never point the firearm at anything you are not willing to destroy.
You hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
It sounds simple, but this rule embodies the whole mindset of safe firearm handling.
Yeah, and you know what we're going to be doing today? We are going to break it down using a fantastic source called Firearms Training Tips, Mastery of Firearms Basics Course 22.
Okay?
It's a super detailed manual that's perfect for our deep dive.
I like it.
For those of you listening, this is your shortcut to mastering Rule 2.
Buckle up.
Buckle up.
Yeah.
Now, I've always thought of this rule as more than just the physical act of pointing. It's like you're building this invisible force field of responsibility around you.
It absolutely is. It's recognizing that a firearm's power demands respect, and that respect is shown through how we control its direction. Internalizing this rule literally changes how you interact with firearms for the better.
For the better, for sure. Now, the manual uses this term, muzzle awareness.
Right.
What's fascinating is how they present it as this core skill that separates those who are truly safe with firearms from those who, well, need a bit more practice.
Muzzle awareness really is the foundation. Think of it this way. If you're always aware of where that muzzle is pointing, you're building in a safety buffer. Even if you trip, get startled, anything unexpected happens. It's like that extra margin for error that keeps everyone safe.
Okay, I'm already digging this deep dive.
Good.
But how do we actually develop this superpower of muzzle awareness? I know the manual gets into some exercises.
It does, and they're not just theoretical. They really build up that muscle memory. One that stands out is called muzzle awareness in motion. It's all about maintaining safe muzzle direction while you move, which is something we do all the time in real life.
Muzzle awareness in motion. That sounds pretty active. What's the first step?
First and foremost, if the firearm is unloaded and confirmed safe, we cannot stress that enough, then you're holding it in a secure, two-handed grip muzzle pointed down at the ground. From there, the exercise involves moving in different directions.
Hold on, unloaded, safe, muzzle down. Got it. So we're talking about moving around with the firearm.
Precisely. Forward, backward, side to side, all while keeping that muzzle pointed safely downrange. It might sound simple, but as you practice, you realize it's forcing you to be incredibly mindful of your body and the firearm as one unit.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this drill builds that constant awareness.
Yeah,
You're moving, but a part of your brain is always on where that firearm is pointing.
exactly. And the exercise gets even more interesting when you add in challenges like pivoting around corners, going through doorways, all while maintaining that safe muzzle direction.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
You're rarely just standing still when handling a firearm.
Right?
So what's the ultimate takeaway for a listener doing this drill?
It boils down to this. No matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, you always know exactly where your firearm is pointing. It becomes an ingrained reflex, like looking both ways before crossing the street.
That's a great analogy. Building those safe habits until they're automatic.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious about another exercise for the manual safe direction, identification, and reflex. It sounds like it takes this awareness to another level.
It does. This one is about instantly recognizing the safest direction to point the firearm no matter where you are. What I like about it is how it includes both indoor and outdoor scenarios, making it really practical for everyday life.
Okay, let's break those scenarios down.
Yeah.
Starting with indoors, what would that look like?
Picture yourself in your home. The exercise encourages you to identify those safe directions, a solid wall, a reinforced area, even just pointing down at the floor. They even suggest using visual aids like colored markers to designate safe zones. Imagine you glance up and instantly know where you could point the firearm if you had to.
I'm visualizing that right now.
Yeah.
It's almost like mentally mapping out your home from a safety perspective, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about outdoors? It's a whole different environment.
Outdoors is about finding that secure area downrange. Think of an earthen backstop, a natural barrier that would effectively stop a bullet. You practice keeping the firearm pointed in that direction consistently. So even if something unexpected happens, the potential consequences are minimized.
So whether indoors or outdoors, it's about constantly evaluating your environment and having that safe direction locked in your mind.
Yes.
That sounds like a mental workout. But what about the reflex part of the exercise?
That's where it gets really interesting. The manual describes instructors randomly asking students, what's the safest direction right now? It's like a pop quiz to force those split-second decisions about muzzle direction.
So you're not just passively identifying, you're being challenged to react quickly under pressure. That's got to be nerve-wracking, but also Incredibly valuable for building those instinctive responses.
Precisely. It's about training your mind and body to work in sync. So pointing the firearm in a safe direction becomes as natural as breathing. And honestly, that level of practice could be life-saving.
That's a powerful thought. We've covered a lot about Rule 2 already, but I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
You're right, there's always more to explore, but I think these exercises give you a really solid foundation for building that crucial muzzle awareness.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, remember, this deep dive is just the beginning. Keep practicing, keep learning, and stay safe out there.
It's amazing how much of firearm safety comes down to the mental game. Being present, anticipating making those safe choices second nature.
Absolutely. And it's not just about mindset. Even seemingly small things like how a firearm fits you play into muzzle awareness and control.
You're so right. It might seem like a minor detail, but trust me, the way a firearm fits your hand can make all the difference in how well you control it. And that directly ties back to Rule 2.
The manual we're using really emphasizes this, even starting with something as basic as hand measurement and finger reach. It's like they're saying before you even think about pulling a trigger, you got to make sure the firearm is an extension of you in a safe way.
Exactly. It's about finding that firearm that's comfortable and manageable for your hand size. If the grip's too large or too small, you're going to struggle to maintain a proper grip, and that can throw off your accuracy and compromise safety.
It makes me think of trying to use tools that just aren't the right size. Imagine trying to hammer a nail with a tiny tack hammer. It's just not going to work well, and you might even hurt yourself.
That's a perfect analogy. And with firearms, an improper fit can have much more serious consequences. The manual even suggests measuring your hand width and finger length to get an idea of what grip size might suit you best.
It's like trying on shoes. You wouldn't just grab a random pair and hope for the best. You want to make sure they fit snugly and comfortably, right?
Exactly. And with firearms, there's no substitute for actually trying out different ones to see how they feel in your hand. What feels comfortable for one person might feel completely awkward for another.
And I imagine this is especially crucial for folks with smaller hands or those who might have any limitations with grip strength.
Absolutely. Thankfully, many firearms these days offer adjustable back straps or grips. It's worth exploring those options to customize the fit to your hand.
So there's hope for those of us who might not have found that perfect fit right off the bat. Now let's talk grip techniques. The manual dives into different styles, like the two-handed grip and the single-handed grip. Are those both equally important for Rule 2?
They both have their place, and honestly, mastering both is part of becoming a well-rounded and therefore safer shooter. The two-handed grip is generally considered the most stable and accurate, especially for beginners, and that stability helps maintain safe muzzle direction.
Okay, let's walk through that two-handed grip. It seems straightforward, but I'm guessing there are nuances even experienced folks might miss.
You're right, there's more to it than just grabbing the firearm. Your dominant hand should be high on the backstrap with the web of your hand, that fleshy part between your thumb and index finger firmly against the back of the grip. Then your support hand comes in from below, fingers overlapping your dominant hand and thumbs align for extra stability.
It's like you're creating this vice-like grip, with both hands working together to completely control the firearm.
Exactly. And with that solid grip, you're much less likely to have the firearm shift unexpectedly, which helps you keep that muzzle pointed where it needs to be.
Now, what about the single-handed grip? When would that be necessary? And how does it tie back to safety?
Think of situations where you might only have one hand available. Maybe you're injured, or your other hand is occupied with something else. It's not ideal. But mastering the single-handed grip can be crucial for maintaining control, and therefore keeping that muzzle pointed in a safe direction, even in challenging circumstances.
That makes sense, being prepared for anything. It must take quite a bit of strength and control to manage recoil with just one hand, though.
It definitely does. But just like any skill, it improves with practice. And speaking of practice, the manual gets into something called grip pressure, which might sound obvious, but I'm guessing there's more to it than meets the eye.
It can't just be about squeezing as hard as you can.
Yeah, right. There's a sweet spot. You need enough pressure to maintain control, but not so much that you start shaking or get fatigued.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Too much pressure, you might jerk the firearm off target, but too little, and you risk losing control, especially when it recoils.
Exactly. And the ideal pressure can change depending on the person and the firearm. It's all about finding what works for you through practice and experimentation.
The manual mentions some drills for this, both dry fire and live fire.
Oh, dry fire practice is invaluable for this. It allows you to really focus on your grip and trigger control without the added pressure of live ammo. You can experiment with different pressures, see how it affects your stability, and really get a feel for that sweet spot.
I love that you can do dry fire practice pretty much anywhere, anytime. It's a great way to build those safe habits without even needing to go to the range. But of course, live fire practice is important too, right?
Absolutely. Once you're comfortable with dry firing, taking those skills to the range and working with live ammunition is the next step. The manual suggests practicing controlled pairs or triple shots, focusing on keeping that consistent grip pressure throughout each shot.
So it's about getting that real-world feel for how your grip affects recoil and accuracy. Now, beyond grip, I know the manual also gets into stance. It might seem like just how you stand, but I'm guessing it plays a bigger role in muzzle awareness than we might realize.
It's huge GE. Stance is the foundation of good shooting technique, and good technique is all about control and safety. Your stance provides a stable platform for firing accurately and managing recoil, which directly impacts where that muzzle is pointing.
The manual covers a few different stances, like the isosceles stance, the weaver stance, and the modified weaver stance.
Right.
Let's start with the isosceles stance. What's the proper form?
Imagine a straight line from your shoulders to your hips to your feet. Feet are shoulder width apart, both pointing towards the target, arms extended forward, like you're forming a triangle with your shoulders and the firearm. And here's the key. Slightly bend your knees and lean forward, putting your weight on the balls of your feet. It's an athletic stance that prepares you for recoil.
That sounds like a very balanced and stable position. What about the weaver stance? How does that differ?
The weaver stance is more of a bladed stance. Your body's turned slightly to the side with your dominant foot, a bit behind your support foot. And there's this push-pull tension you create with your arms. Support arm extended forward, dominant arm bent. This tension helps absorb recoil and keeps the firearm on target, which, you guessed, it keeps that muzzle pointed in a safe direction.
So it's a bit more dynamic than the isosceles stance. And finally, we have the modified weaver stance. How does that fit into the mix?
It's a hybrid, taking the best of both worlds. Stability from the isosceles stance and mobility from the weaver stance. It's a great all-around option for a variety of shooting scenarios.
It sounds like choosing the right stance depends on personal preference and the situation, kind of like with grip.
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. The key is to experiment, try different stances, and find what feels most natural and stable for you. And of course, practice is essential for mastering any stance.
And speaking of practice, I bet dry fire drills come in handy here too, right?
They're amazing for working on your stance. You can practice
Yeah.
getting into position, feeling that stability, and really refining your technique without the distraction of recoil.
And then once you're feeling comfortable, you can take it to the range
Right.
and incorporate those stances into your live fire practice.
Exactly. It's all about layering those skills, building that foundation of solid technique that ultimately supports safe muzzle direction and responsible firearm handling.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground when it comes to firearm fit, grip, and stance, and how all those seemingly small details actually play a huge role in Rule 2.
It's all connected, and it all comes back to that core principle of being aware of where your firearm is pointing at all times.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, remember, this is just the beginning of the journey. Keep practicing, keep learning, and as always, stay safe out there. You know, it's amazing how much we've unpacked just about Rule 2.
I know, right?
It just really highlights how much goes into being a responsible firearm owner. It's not just about, like knowing the rules. It's understanding the why behind them, and how everything connects back to safety.
You got it. And building those skills, that mindset that makes handling firearms safer for everyone.
Absolutely. We've talked about exercises, the mental game, even how firearm fit plays into it.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I want to circle back to those key drills from the manual. They really stuck with me.
Yeah, me too. They're so practical, and they really drive home the importance of that continuous muzzle awareness.
Yeah, that muzzle awareness in motion drill, moving around while maintaining safe muzzle direction. It's like it forces you to be hyper-aware of your body and the firearm as one unit.
It's such a simple concept, but so powerful. And then adding in those challenges, like going through doorways, turning corners, that's where it really clicks, like how important that constant awareness is.
And then safe direction, identification, and reflex. That one blew my mind a bit. Mentally mapping out your home instantly, knowing where you could point the firearm safely if you had to.
That's what I love about it. It's practical, for everyday life. And the reflex part where the instructor throws those random questions at you, that simulates the pressure of a real-world situation.
Yeah, it's like your brain is doing this constant risk assessment, always calculating the safest direction, even when you're not actively using the firearm.
Exactly. It takes practice, but eventually it becomes second nature, like a safety autopilot.
And that's really the goal, right? to make these safe practices so ingrained that we do them without even thinking.
Absolutely. Just like you buckle your seatbelt without even thinking about it, that level of awareness with firearms is what keeps everyone safe.
For sure. Well, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today and hopefully some tools to start building those essential skills.
I hope so too.
And remember, responsible firearm ownership is a journey, not a destination. There's always more to learn, more to practice.
So true.
So keep seeking out knowledge, keep honing those skills, and keep safety at the forefront of your mind every time you handle a firearm.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Rule 2.
Absolutely.
Until next time, stay safe out there.